Shea, thanks for joining us today.
No problem, man. Excited to be here.
I just want to ask, where are you joining us from today?
Joining you from Columbus, Ohio. I don't know if anybody saw this, but the national championship Ohio State Buckeyes are from right here in Columbus. So,
Yes, I'm sure you're proud. That's excellent. All right, Shea, you're coming back. This is not our first Coffee with Closers. Thank you so much for coming back. You are defending your title on the scoreboard, our business development scoreboard for property management. Do you mind giving us the rough numbers of what you did in 2024 and 2023? Because you are a two-time champion of the scoreboard.
yeah, for sure. I'll start with the good news because I'm a sales guy. 2023, we ended up closing as a company a little over 450 doors. About 400 of those were mine solely. And then this past year, 2024, we did take a little bit of a dip and ended with something like, I think, 255 units signed up. So there was a little bit of a decrease there, but there was a little bit of an adjustment in the types of owners and the types of properties we were looking for. So we're excited, cautiously optimistic about 2025.
And just for anybody who's not familiar with you, we celebrated you being in Columbus, Ohio, but your market is actually in Chicago. So do you mind just kind of giving us, the company name, ideal client, size of the company, and just a little background so people know what they're listening to?
Yeah, for sure. So the company is GC Realty and Development. We are based in the Chicago market. So we handle the greater Chicago area just for simplicity. There's certain types of areas, lower rent type areas that we don't necessarily service anymore. So that limits us a little bit, but we take the suburbs and within the city. In terms of ideal customer, we're pivoting a little bit more towards single family homes, townhomes, and 2 to 4 unit buildings. And we're working on changing how we service some of those bigger owners. But that has caused those to come on a little bit more few and far between. In terms of the company size, we have about 60 employees right now across about 1,400 units on the residential side that we service. And we have big goals over the next couple of years. So
Great. And you've been in your role for about 2 years, is that correct?
that's right. So about 2.5 years, but the leads have been coming exclusively to me for the last 2 years. Yeah.
Great. All right. So what do we do? Let's break down what you did to have the year that you did in 2024, because, like you said, even though it was a dip in this, like everybody had a little bit of a dip. I think there were some market headwinds there as we talked about. So I want to break down a few things. I got some notes, so I'm going to ask you about a few things I've been hearing from my coaches about what you've been doing well. Um, excuse me. First thing I want to ask about is networking. So I know you've been building a big network. Walk me through what you've been doing.
So in terms of the success in 2024 that we had, one of the things that I noticed was so we covered this a little bit peripherally, but I'm in Columbus and the market's in Chicago. So what networking means to me now is different than what it meant in 2023 when I actually lived in Chicago. Last year, the way that I was perceiving that was how many people can I actually talk to on the phone? So whether that be referral partners via lenders, insurance agents, general contractors, or everybody's favorite, the agent, or just talking to for rent by owners, old leads, dead leads, new leads. I started to see that there was a significant correlation between the amount of people that I could actually get on the phone and then positive outcomes for the business, whether that be more doors, more leasing, more referrals, etc. I'm shifting that a little bit, trying to add on to that now that I feel like I see that correlation coming into 2025 by adding some social media presence and adjusting the way that we drip to old and I would call them marketing qualified leads rather than sales qualified leads. So that's really the focus this year.
All right. So social networking is a big part of the networking, which I think is great. Getting people on the phone, actually having one-to-one conversations. What is that? Break it down on what that looks like on a schedule. Like, what's a day or a week look like for you? How much time are you spending on that? And what are you doing? What do you schedule in time to make sure that you get done?
Yeah, good question. So, and I think this may be a little bit different from the way that other people do it. So I tend to do most of my analytical, administrative checkbox type work in the morning. So usually before 10 a.m., that's when I'm knocking out a lot of whether it's data entry stuff, organizing my thoughts, maybe I'm working on a bigger project. I do that stuff better in the morning personally. And then in the afternoon, after I have lunch, so it ends up being about 1 to 5 p.m. I mean, that is all calls. That's all CRM. That's me living. And again, that's a big block when you think about it as, oh, well, let's go cold outbound for 4 hours. But the reality is that's warm leads, set appointments, new conversations, cold outreach, etc. I also find that, and again, contrary to what seems to be common belief, people seem to pick up the phone in the afternoon for me. And so I've just found that that works. It aligns with my flow and the way that I work well because I tend to be a little bit more creative later in the day. And it seems to align with when people are picking up the phone. So that's kind of how I do it. Um, I block it out actually in hour blocks. So if I know I have something coming up, I'll block out an hour for et cetera. But there's very little that I schedule between 1 and 5 p.m. in the afternoon, excluding this conversation with you, of course.
Appreciate you making the time for this. So there's very little you schedule. So you're scheduling all your meetings earlier, and you're just using the afternoons. But I also heard you kind of blended in. I'm calling referral partners like agents and brokers, other people. I'm calling leads. Do you have any kind of like on this day I call these people, that day I call that people? Or are you just like, hey, who's a warm body that's going to answer the phone, and I'm just going to call them right now?
Lending towards the latter. I care way more about the volume of people that I'm talking to than doing it in any specific order. So if there's a lot of leads in the pipeline that I need to address, I mean that's where a lot of that attention is going in that second 4 hours of the day. But if things are lighter and all that, a lot of that stuff has been addressed or touched, that's where it starts to go into who are agents that I need to connect with, who are lenders that I need to connect with, who are people that otherwise have no interest in property management, but some reason traded their information for something that we're giving out that I can go talk to. So I don't know if I would say it's that organized, but it is a set time that I try to do it, and it is talking to as many people as possible.
So I think I'd paraphrase, tell me if I'm right. You're starting with the people that are most likely to be able to make a decision to do business with you first. Then you're talking to the people who may do business with you personally.
Yes.
And then as the day goes, then you start moving 2 and 3 degrees away, like in the game of Kevin Bacon. And now you're like, okay, who knows my next client instead of who could be my next client? So you front load it with like, who can I actually do business with now? Who might I do business with? Who knows my clients? Who maybe for whatever reason is in my sphere and I have no clue why they are, but who knows what happens, right? So you just kind of like slide down the probability. Is that a fair way to?
Exactly. Yep. No, no, you're nailing it. I mean, that is exactly right. It's more, I think of it more of like timelines, but yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's great. And so let's jump to that. Well, I say that, but let's jump to this idea that, when we worked with you originally, you were right there in Chicago. And I know I came to Chicago, I went to events, and I was just getting to see you out in the community. And I know that for life circumstances, you moved a few hours outside of the market, so still drivable, but you're not there
Mhm.
every single day. And so you lose that ability to go to networking events 3 nights a week, like you may have done in the first, couple months of the business. But you're still building that presence. So how does that work for you, both in terms of servicing prospects that are calling in and continuing to build that network when you just don't have the proximity that you used to?
Yeah, I think so. My head goes immediately back to the calls and the conversations, but it's also expanding on the connections that I made at that time. So just in sort of like layman's conversations, whether it be with other property managers or insurance partners or whatever, those people can't service everyone. So getting back to the degrees of Kevin Bacon, it turns into, oh, well, do you know anybody that does this area or does this specific niche? And that's really a jumping off point for that The other side of this has been the social media presence. So one of my things this year has been to try to make specifically my LinkedIn, but a variety of other social medias a little bit more robust, because it kind of offers a warm connection when you go to connect with somebody. So I guess a good example would be there was an agent recently that I saw had mutual connections with me on LinkedIn. I wanted to add them. After I had a chance to add them, I thought, okay, how can I get this person some business to bolster that referral network? So I immediately go to the phone line of a whole bunch of people that I know are looking to invest type pipeline, call a bunch of those until I find somebody that meets the niche of the referral agent that I just added on LinkedIn, and then make the introduction via email. So now both parties, even though they had no business being in touch, this is a little bit of a in the weeds example, but it gives you kind of a look into the way that I look at it. If I can connect them, they both feel like helped, obviously, and like they owe me something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the quid pro quo or law of reciprocity. People love
Mhm.
being connected for sure. And I know that that's culturally ingrained. I mean, I know Mark, founder of the company you work for, and he's all about. I mean, I get referrals unsolicited constantly. I was get a text message from Mark on a Thursday night at 8 p.m. and he's just like, "Hey, you need to talk to this guy," and he connects us. So I think it's amazing. I mean, this is giver's gain. If you've ever been a part of BNI, I think that, anybody who's been a part of like kind of a local network understands the idea of giver's gain. And you guys get that really well. And you're adding real value. It's not just that I know somebody, but if somebody calls you and I'm guessing they say, "Hey, look, I don't know if I'm gonna hire you or not, but I'm in a pickle. Can you give me some information?" I'm guessing you guys are pretty free with advice and best practices and connections, right?
Yeah, which in turn that's what turns into a lot of those like very very lukewarm type leads, because we trade our information for a lot of that sort of low level or free information. That person may not necessarily be looking for property management, but they're going to remember the way that you made them feel. So you just in some ways created your own sort of marketing source, and that's really the way that we look at it, and that's definitely the way that Mark looks at it. It's a connector's game.
All right, so let's talk about the social media presence, just because you brought it up, and I'm watching Mark. I know it changes all the time. I think the strategy and the matters more than the tactics when it comes to this. But in 2025, people watching this right now, or what you did in 2024, where are you at? Is this a all LinkedIn game? Where are you basically building that like social media presence and authority? Like, where should people be focused on right now?
I'm focusing on LinkedIn personally, and I would say maybe a little bit Facebook in terms of local Facebook groups. We'll go in there and comment and post, and then also bigger pockets, but that's not really a new thing. Part of my focus for LinkedIn is, and I'm sure that a lot of my fellow BDMs can relate to this. I'm not. I'm trying to gain the comfortability of putting myself out there on social media, and I think LinkedIn is a nice warm way to do that because it is a lot of business. So my thought and my goal is to how can I get comfortable with the cadence, the types of things that I'm posting, and then once I get comfortable with that, I think that it'll expand to other social media outlets.
I agree. Okay, so going back to kind of schedule, guessing you're on Bigger Pockets, some Facebook groups, and LinkedIn every single day.
Mhm.
Is there a time of the day that you do it? Do you have like a cadence? I know people overfixate on this kind of stuff, but it is helpful. Is it like I got a post a day I got to make, or I got to make 10 comments a day? Do you have any metrics, or are you just kind of like I go on and the opportunity just shows itself to me?
Well, this would fall into the morning sort of cadence of me going through sort of more administrative or things that I can do on the laptop without talking on the phone type tasks. And the way that I have it set up, because this is what Mark guided me to do at the beginning, was, in Bigger Pockets, you can highlight keywords and then it'll send you automated emails in the morning that match your keywords. So it becomes very simple. I get something in my inbox every single morning, matching a variety of the keywords that I have in the forums on Bigger Pockets. I click in it, I go in and find something to like, comment, refer, add value, etc. I try to do that with a handful of things each morning, depending on how many keywords pop up. Then I'm done with Bigger Pockets. It literally takes 5 minutes max. Um, LinkedIn, same thing. So I'll pop right from Bigger Pockets, go over to LinkedIn. Oh, what's relevant in the PM space, the realtor space, the Chicago real estate investing space today that I can make a comment on, repost, share, send to somebody via DM, etc. Um, Facebook group, I would say, is I'm trying to get into a better cadence with that. I'm not quite there yet, because it's harder to automate for me. And if I can't automate it as a true salesperson, then it becomes easy to lose it. But I go in there periodically, and it reminds me, especially when we have our Scale Club weekly meetings, that lately has been a lot about establishing brand reputation, presence, etc. So I'll go in there around that time, at least once or twice a week.
Great. All right. I think it's super helpful for people watching because I think some people feel like they're going to get sucked into doing it all day long and not get anything done. And then other people are like, I feel like I'm doing it, but they check it every other week. So
Yeah.
nice to hear the cadence from somebody who's doing it and getting results from it, which is why it was really.
Well, I'll tell you, Jeremy, I think that the fear of the slippery slope of falling too much into it, I mean, I guess I don't know what to say other than keep it on your desktop then, if that's what you're worried about. So if you can keep it on your desktop, especially with Bigger Pockets and LinkedIn, then it's not going to become something that you're sucked into. And probably more likely you're just using that as a reason to not get going on it. Sorry, that was a little firm.
All right. It's a great place to hide from the other hard work, the other phone calls you're going to do. And listen, I'm a believer. That's the thing, which is why this is tough because it'd be easy just to be like, look, don't go on there at all. But I actually think this is the most powerful mediums that we have to meet total strangers right now. And so we should be on there. And the other side is then you just have to have a plan and you have to make sure it's working for you. And you can't use that as an excuse for why you won't pick up the phone and call people like you do, which is great.
Well, it's an easy hedge. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example on that. Like we talked about it a lot last year, the first quarter of 2024. I wanted to touch base with 1,000 people. I succeeded in doing that, got good results from that. On LinkedIn, I wrote one newsletter and I had 3,500 impressions. I had several hundred article reads. I mean, I reached more people on that one. Now, look, it's not the same thing as connecting 1v1 on the phone, but the megaphone that you're using through there is so much bigger than trying to call, text, email, etc. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. The only thing that's probably stopping you is feeling like people are going to roll their eyes at you, or what are my friends going to think, or what are my family going to think? So then I say to myself, well, never mind, I won't post because I don't want to get sucked into it. So I don't know if I necessarily buy that, but
I love that. So do you know Tom Ferry? He's like a real estate coach.
yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, so Tom has a great take on this. He says, I get a real estate agent, spend 2 hours to script a great video and then to create an Instagram reel and put it out there, and they get 25 views. And they're like, it wasn't worth it. And he's like, how long would it have taken you to pick up the phone and call those 25 people and share with them that like this is where the market is right now? And then everybody's like, that would have taken me the whole day. And he's like, exactly. He's like, you spend 2 hours and you reach 25 people, and it would have taken you at least the whole day to call those people and have that same conversation. So I think it's just a great way to look at that. It is a micro win. I think, we're used to looking at things that go viral that are thousands of views. But in your market, if you do that 3 days a week and you get 20 people watching it or reading it, like you're saying, that's like 60 phone calls you're replacing. So I love that leverage.
Yeah, totally agree. And you get to say it exactly how you want to say it. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, the presentation is all up to you.
Yeah, good point. And you're right. You make 25 phone calls. 8 of those are going to kind of suck. You just won't be on your A game. Versus
At least
I can do it one really good way and they're all going to hear it. So that's a great point. Okay, so sticking on technology, when I was hearing about what you're doing, everybody's talking about AI. Sounds like you're catapulting yourself, or you're leveraging your time with AI. Walk me through, kind of how you've adopted AI this year and what how are you using that to basically talk to more people and work faster?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I just want to shout out Sales Mastery and Scale Club because this got put on our radar um, pretty significantly during that time period. So, for me, I think one thing with specifically with things that are black and white, so like things legal, math, just a lot of like local laws and ordinances, which we have a lot of in Chicago. All that stuff's outsourced there. It used to maybe be emails, sort of endless YouTube video or Google searching, and it is all there now. So that's one part of it. Outlining newsletters or social media posts is another thing. So and there's a fine line here. It's not chat, write me a newsletter or a post or whatever. It is the way that you prompt it, the way that you get the outline. I think what you find is it's easy to use it to your advantage if you already know what you're talking about. But if you don't know what you're talking about, then it's going to come off like an AI piece. So that's a big part of my take there. And then I think that really the third thing is understanding how not just ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini work, but the way that they are being used more and more as a search engine. And so, what goes into the content that we put out, and it's not just traditional Google search engine optimization anymore. It is how can you optimize AI search engines? And what we've found, and one thing that we're leaning into, is kind of adjusting the quality of the actual pieces. So, and I know you know a lot about SEO, but with the SEO, it's keyword tails. It is how can I make this headline grabby, yada yada yada. There's a factor of trust, but I think that the quality of the content plays a bigger part in the AI search engines. So we've been going back through a lot of old blog posts and what can we add to make this more searchable via AI, and what data is AI using to rank their lists or give their suggestions, etc. So we've been leaning a lot into that too.
All right, I think you just lost half the audience and blew everybody's mind. I love what you're saying. I think you and I are talking, we're talking our book, right? Like you and I get it, but I want to ask you to help me break this down for somebody watching this that's like, I barely even started using AI, or I just thought AI was gonna, create an image for me if I needed one. You just unpack a lot, Shay, which I love. So one, I want to say for the audience, GC Realty creates a ton of content. So they're already out there just publishing newsletters and blogs and social posts and podcasts. And then one of the things I heard you say, just one, is then you're going back and basically saying, okay, not only do we need to optimize these for Google, but we might need to optimize these for for an AI. I call it Chat GPT, but an AI,
Sure.
because somebody in Chicago might pull up their phone and literally be like, hey, I'm not sure what to do about my tenant and my property in Midtown who's got this issue.
Yes.
Can you help me? And you want to make sure you show up there, right? That was just
Yes.
like that. Like I just want to like really illustrate how progressive you guys are thinking about that. And so walk me through, what does that look like? What are the conversations like within the company about something like that?
The conversations are more, I would say, siloed to the sales and marketing department. So there's a handful of us basically. But the conversations are a lot of times with the AI model. Hey, how are you? You start with the question of what's the best property management company in Chicago? And then it gives you a list of them. Okay, where are you coming up with that list? Why did you say that list? What is impacting your decision? You're having this conversation literally with the thing, and then it will spit out, oh, here's where we're getting it from. Here's why we rate them so highly. Yada yada yada, and that ends up becoming your playbook and how to adjust your material. And the reason that we're putting such a high focus on this is because people at a higher and higher clip are not just Googling for the thing that they need. They might not, we spend so much time over the past few years trying to be first on Google when you search property management company Chicago. I'm not saying that's irrelevant. I think that part of it is important, but more and more people are not just asking Google. They're going to go ask ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. And so the question becomes, how do you come up in those search results? Because for some reason that bot is treated as a more trusted source, a more curated source than Google.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you're literally asking them, how did you come up with that list?
Yeah.
It's so genius. I mean, the funniest thing is like a 20-year expert Googler is you had to learn how to use Google. And now when you have like an AI, assistant, you literally can talk to them like you and I do and be like imagine if
Mhm.
you and I got together and be like, shit, well, why do you think they do that? And you'll actually give me an answer, like as an AI bot. And like, okay, how can I beat the game? Like you can literally ask AI that, which is kind of
Yeah.
funny now. And I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think there's just to expand on this a little bit. I think people view it as just a copywriter. Hey, we just need to use. Oh, this is perfect. Use ChatGPT to write the listing information or the description, or just use it for social media. But the power is in a lot of like what's behind the AI and how it's coming up with the information. So if you start to look at it as, I have a sticky note on my laptop right here that says, "Could AI solve this?" Um, and it's just a constant reminder that it's like if you're talking to somebody that's really intelligent that's read what 200 books or something like that. Imagine talking to somebody that's read 4 million books. That's kind of the way that I view it.
how much of your, how much do you use it when you're doing sales follow-up? When you're like, I got this deal that's on the table. I thought they were going to buy right after the call. I'm 10 days in. It feels stale. Like I think every salesperson like senses that like I can't lose this. Like I know that
Mhm.
they're on the table. Are you using AI to like help you with follow-up?
Not with the writing of the follow-up, but I will ask AI. I'll say something like, "Hey, I've sent Jeremy this piece of information, and we had this conversation. Their initial pushback was XYZ. They haven't responded in 10 days. What do you think is a piece of valuable information I could share with them that would bring them back to the table or fire them up emotionally to at least make them respond?" Like that would be an exact prompt that I would say. And it would give me, and then if it gave me something I didn't like, I would say, "That's fine. Give me 5 non-obvious answers." So you just continue prompting it. And again, it's not for it to necessarily do the work for you. It is to spur you in the right direction towards answers that you already know and just maybe aren't thinking about.
All right, we're just cheating now. I just absolutely like it feels like we're cheating now. I love it. That was a great share. Shay, thank you. You and me both on the bubbly for sure. Like,
Oh yeah, cheers. Yeah, it's supposed to be
yeah,
coffee with closings,
I
right?
know. Yeah, it's we're both on seltzer water with closers. I love it. Um, that's great. So thank you so much for that. Anything, not to toot any horns, but you said you guys left Sales Mastery. I know, I really focused on how salespeople can use AI. Anything that you took away from that event, that you specifically, not to like ring my bell about what you took away, but anything you think people may be misunderstanding or underestimating about how to use their AI tools as a business development manager.
I think from a broad, maybe like a 30,000 foot view, I think what a lot of people that are opposed to using it think is that there's no substitution for the human touch. This is not going to be how people do business. People want to interact with people. Um, I think that that becomes like a question of technology through all of time, right? I mean, there used to be receptionists in every single room. Now there's chatbots, and now there is answering machines. So this stuff is designed to help you do the humanizing part, not necessarily replace you. So one thing that I took away from sales mastery, especially with this, is, and it's kind of been in this conversation, but it's around how you prompt it. So you are still giving all of the information. So if we look at, you had shared that pound bot. So you are feeding all of this information in there because you know that that's what's going to work when interacting with people. So it's not like I'm trying to take AI's personality and put it on people. It is still your personality. It is literally jogging ideas for you. It's giving you outlines of how to say things, and it's speeding up that process. Where maybe you needed to have 2 cups of coffee and be sitting in the exact right place in your living room and making sure, oh shit, I need to remember this, so I better jot it down in my phone notes. All of that stuff, the lower level outsourcing, that's going to the AI. You just need to be big picture decision making. And when you really think about it, that is pretty much what property management companies are doing. We are executing on the smaller things, and the owner is the one doing the big picture decision making. So I think that if you start to think about AI as the tool, the thing that can add, but you are actually the creative mastermind, that's when you start to realize the power of it, not necessarily think of it as replacing your job.
Well said, my friend. I love that. It's great to hear that. You took the assignment away well. And I do agree. I do agree. It's amazing. Like that was to me the breakthrough was AI can actually be trained by you, and you can take in our case years of experience and tribal knowledge and strong opinions on things and counterintuitive opinions on things, and you can tell AI, this is how I think. Within that context, how would you write this?
Yeah. I mean, when you think of like if I told ChatGPT to write me a paper on particle physics, it would write me a blog post on particle physics. And I'd be like, oh, this is probably right. I don't know. But then you put it out there, and I promise you the particle physicists are going to be like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. The power is in you. I mean, you already know what works and who we're communicating with, et cetera. It is using it as an outline, as a stimulus.
Yes, it's amazing. I love that particle physicist thing. I mean, it's just like, I've learned from you and Mark, all the districts in Chicago, like this side of the street can have these rules, and that side of the street can have different rules, which blows my mind, living in Florida. But you know that. And if you asked ChatGPT to do that, you'd be missing out on the subject matter expertise that you guys have spent decades learning. So when you get to load all that up there, you can actually make AI really efficient for you guys, You can be like, hey, by the way, here's our philosophy on things. We think we want to err to this side of risk or that much risk. Like that's the thing, chat, like AI does not think that way yet. But if you tell it that you have a bias for more risk, less risk, you have a bias for more local information, more global information, you have a bias for a short-term view, a long-term view, then all of a sudden you're getting answers that are sexy and exciting for everybody, and it sounds like they're yours. So I'm glad that you guys are indulging in that.
Yeah. No, I
So
mean, we love it. And it's, like I said, it's for more than just copy. I mean, it can be used in so many different circumstances.
without a doubt. All right. So I want to ask one more big subject because I got you here and we talked a little bit about this, and you're speaking, my love language on sales. One of the things that I'm enjoying, RentScale is 6 years into business. You guys are a decade into business. One of the things that I have experienced as a multi-time entrepreneur is people take for granted how hard it is to start from scratch. Like starting from scratch sucks for a million reasons. But when you are in business for several years, you start to have these assets that are pretty hard to ignore. I know you guys have amazing reputation, great SEO, all kinds of assets. But one of the assets that are really easy for all of us to overlook are all the people that reached out to us in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We got, you guys are closing, hundreds of deals a year. That means you probably are literally touching 1,000 people a year without, overestimating. I know that's what we do as well. And that's why I get really excited when I meet a business owner that's several years in business. I'm just like, hey, the best asset you may be sitting on are all the people that have come through your CRM and your funnel and all these other people that just for whatever reason, the timing wasn't right, the message wasn't right, you didn't make the right offer, they went with somebody else. So I'm hearing that you are spending a significant portion of your time, kind of nurturing those leads, and that you have a little bit of an exciting, exotic way to do it. You're kind of like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but kind of what I took away was, well, they're not doing business with us anyway, so let's go back and let's swing for the fences. So to walk me through what you're doing when you're talking to people who didn't buy from you before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head. The idea is, you have all these people in your CRM that have come through, and they're not responding to you anyway, and they're not working with you now anyway. So when you originally start thinking about it, you think, okay, how can I put together an email drip campaign or a texting plan that is going to touch all these people? Because maybe if we just touch them again, then that'll bring them back into the sphere. But then it starts to become a question of like, well, we've kind of been doing that anyway, and it's obviously not worked. So where our head went was basically how polarizing can we be in the messaging that we send to them? And we were hesitant. And when I say polarizing, I mean like um, curse words and subject lines. I mean sending very grabby kinds of text messages. And part of this is like the hesitancy becomes, oh, are they going to get mad and unsubscribe? Are they going to say, wow, that was offensive, and then go talk bad about our business? The reality is we don't, when it's polarizing, that means people either feel strongly one way or feel strongly the other way. And so if we can make these people veer further and further away from the middle, then that ultimately captures more people that feel strongly about it than what we had before anyway. So if we drip to, let's say, 1,000 people, this new sort of polarizing type of drip campaign, and we get 10 people from it that were like, dude, I was dying laughing at that email, or I couldn't believe that you said that, but it was so true, or dude, that text message that you sent me really made my week. Then that's 10 more people than you had before doing exactly what we had been trying to do for the last several years. So that is what we've been spending a lot of time on, re-putting that together. And I mentioned to you at some point the Liquid Death. So Liquid Death it's a water company, not to plug them, but their marketing is very edgy, I think is what I would say. And they became basically a water company that blows all the other water companies out of the water just because they're that different. So it's kind of cutting through the fray of being just like every other service provider, and being the one that stands out to make yourself top of mind, so that when people are thinking property management company, maybe they're thinking something really bad. Oh, they're I can't believe that they would say things like that. But more likely, you just stand out. Period. So I think that that's kind of the angle, especially with a lot of I mean, we have got thousands of old leads.
I love how you just were like, you just kind of ended and you're like, yeah, we got thousands of leads. I love it. It was bold. And they're just people that, like you said, the status quo was not going to move them off of the rocker, right? And so you are making a strategic bet, which I love, that I can either send out a mid message that's pretty bland and everyone's just going to ignore it. Or I can send out a polarizing message, liquid death style, and 10 out of the 100 people are going to buy, and 10 out of the 100 people are going to be like, unsubscribe, don't ever call me again.
Yeah.
And the other 80 are just going to ignore it, which they're going to do.
Ignore like they do all the other messages anyway.
Yeah.
So I would rather take that percent increase in click through that turns into another conversation, which turns into maybe another deal, or maybe it just turns to warming them back up and getting them into a different part of our funnel. Or maybe it turns into a great conversation and I get a general contractor out of it. The point is getting them to be riled up a little bit so they want to have a conversation, or even better, sometimes get them off the list. Because if that's going to get them off the list, then it's less people that we're dealing with in the pipeline. So
Yes. Yes. Less noise. The vibe attracts the tribe. I don't know if you ever heard that, Shay, but that's what you
no,
guys are doing. You tell Mark that the vibe attracts the tribe. Like that's
I
what I'm
love
hearing
that.
you guys doing, which I
Yeah,
love. And that's what Liquid
that's
does,
great.
with their crazy branding. That's amazing. So, Jay, I think is a great spot to leave it on, unless you got anything else you want to share.
No, I mean, I think that everybody around this time of year has sort of their planning set and it's time to get going. And I think if we're like the other property managers out there that want to grow, we all have lofty goals. So figure out the highest point of leverage for you. For me, that's talking to people on the phones, but some people are better at written communication. Some people's markets tend towards other things. So find whatever it is, that one thing that seems to correlate with a high degree of closed doors, and do more of it.
Like it. Well, I have a strong feeling you're gonna go bold on the three-peat, two-time scoreboard leader, which is amazing. I don't want you to give away all your strategies. You are a generous giver in Scale Club, which is why we invited you back. You're sharing this with everybody else, and everybody. I just want to recognize you, Shay. Other members of Scale Club say, hey, when I'm in a meeting with Shea, like I learned something, which is amazing. So I do appreciate you giving away all your expertise, but if you're gonna three-peat, you're gonna have to keep something secret. So I don't want you to give everything away.
Well, I keep telling Reese and the crew at RentScale to keep bringing on more PMs, more competition, man.
I like
Iron
it.
sharpens iron.
Well, we are. I mean, I think we were up around 30% from the first year, and I think we'll do that another, this year. So you might have 100 people you're competing with this year, which will be exciting.
That's awesome. It's better for everybody, huh?
It is better for everybody. All right, Shay, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. Have a great week.